I became a mom, I suddenly was like, oh my God, I don't think I can get back to work. And I didn't even know when I will. And luckily for me, my second son, when he came into my life, I was forced to shift my attention from my firstborn. Otherwise, nothing else could have done that. And I realized that, oh, the heavens didn't fall down. And that's what prompted me to get back to work. So many women, right, who, extremely qualified, ambitious, capable, experienced, and then they drop the ball of their careers and they just don't get back. So when I started figuring out all the challenges that they were going through to get back to work, that's what prompted me to start. At that, it was called JobsForHer and now HerKey. When I launched this in March 2015, we had 20 companies on the platform. We were only providing job listing for women on a break, and our website said this is only for women returnees in Bangalore. By the time a year was over, we had about 1,000 companies. Many of those companies were paying us to put us in touch with these women, and the number of women that were coming to our website was crashing every week. In 2016, I found out about a Startup Girls Challenge that Kalahari was hosting. And I signed up for it because I thought it was a challenge, and you would get, I think, $80,000 in Facebook credits and $100,000 in cash. And I was like, oh my God, I went all in. Went through multiple rounds of the pitches and, worked really hard. We had a very, very small team then, very small company. And we won it. So I thought I won the competition, and I thought it's a cash prize and then a term sheet.
Thanks, Neha, for being a part of our show, Wiping Out the Norm. It's about women who have done something different and wiped out the norm in their own fields. You have created India's first platform for women who want to restart their careers and get into something. And I know that how much confidence comes when you are working for yourself independently, So you've given confidence to many women through your platform, HerKey. So I want to know your journey as to what triggered you to start a platform like this in the first place.
Well, Radhika, thank you first of all for having me. It's always a pleasure to, really share this journey and this story, because there's so many women out there who are in the same heels that I was in when I took a break in my own career for 3.5 years when my kids were born. And it was a completely unplanned break. I like to say a baby gave birth to a mother. Just when I became a mom, I suddenly was like, oh my God, I don't think I can get back to work. And I didn't even know when I will, if I will. And luckily for me, my second son, when he came into my life, I was forced to shift my attention from my firstborn. Otherwise, nothing else could have done that. And I realized that, oh, the heavens didn't fall down, and he's fine. In fact, it might be better for him that he doesn't have this helicopter mom on his head all the time. And that's what prompted me to get back to work. And when I restarted my career, it was just such a positive experience that I started questioning all the women around me. That why aren't you getting back to work? Why aren't you getting back to work? And I'm sure you know so many women, right, who, extremely qualified, ambitious, capable, experienced, and then they drop the ball of their careers and they just don't get back. So when I started figuring out all the challenges that they were going through to get back to work, that's what prompted me to start. At that, it was called JobsForHer and now HerKey.
But what do you think are the challenges which stop women from getting back to work?
So many, right? And I like to say that, so I did a business degree from Wharton, but I feel like you need a whole different business degree to be able to manage these 4 things, right? It's time management. So you just don't know how to make sure that you're balancing your time between your work and your family, and when you've taken that break and you're a full-time mom. Second is a lot of fear management, so you actually are worried about, will you be judged, and will you be able to manage, will you become a bad mother, bad wife, bad daughter-in-law. Third is a lot of guilt management, and that's something that always stays right at the back of your head, that you're either when you're at work you feel guilty you're not at home, when you're at home you feel guilty you're not at work. And then there's biases management. And there are lots of biases all around us. You know, it could be amongst people we know well, it could be the larger society, or it could be at the workplace.
Yeah.
So these are 4 big things that really stop women to be able to get back to work and do well at work.
Yeah.
But the biggest challenge that all women on a break go through is a loss of confidence. You know, and it's because of all of this.
Yeah. But did you think that you had faced some of these issues when you were on a break?
Yeah, of course, all of them.
Yeah. But how did you overcome them?
And not just when I was on a break, even when I got back to work, I think it took a couple of years. Yeah, and luckily I had founded something like JobsForHer, so I was always meeting very inspirational women.
Yeah.
And that helped me so much in overcoming my own fears and you know, guilt and all of that. And you learn, there are lots of tips and tricks that you know, get you by. But one thing very, very important is to have really positive people around you.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's kind of that support system that you start building and of people who will start pushing you up rather than pulling you down.
Right. But tell me that when you started JobsForHer, did you, like any startup founder today looks at the TAM, SAM, SOM and whatnot, so many terms are there. Did you think of all of those, or was it just a purpose that got you started?
No, so it was definitely a purpose, but frankly, before I read Lean In by Sheryl Sandberg, I thought that this problem was just mine or my friends. Yeah. When I read Lean In, I was like, oh my God, 1 second. If the CEO of Facebook feels like this, then I'm sure there are lots of women out there, you know, who are not being able to succeed in their careers because of all these problems. And that's when I did do the research. Yeah. And when I did the research, I was shocked. I found out that out of 100 college grads in India today, 40 of them are women. And that's incredible. Yeah, that's the work our mother's generation has done.
Yeah.
But out of those 40 women, only 8 even start their careers.
Okay.
And then out of those 8, 4 of them drop out within 3 years. Which means only 10% of our qualified, educated women base are pursuing long-term careers in India.
Yeah.
So for me, that was a TAM. Because it was so obvious that if we can fix that ratio, I mean, it would be so good for that woman, it would be so good for companies, and it would be so good for our society and our economy.
Yeah. But why do you think, like, after graduation itself, people don't pursue the work?
Again, it's a lot of biases, right? So if you really think about it now, you know, fathers are educating their daughters to find themselves a good husband and not necessarily a good job. You know, many girls are brought up thinking that the be-all and end-all of life is to find that good husband. And once they found that good husband, that's it, right? Like, they don't need to work. So many people think they don't need to work. Second, there are still a lot of girls who are not allowed to work. Yeah, they're not allowed to, especially go to another office and you know, work from somewhere. And third, it's almost like after you get married, it's like a status symbol. Yeah, where if your wife is working, are you not earning enough? So it is absolutely not a skills problem. It's a cultural problem that we face.
But I think it'll take time to break this culture. It won't.
Yeah, but it's already changing, you know, and I mean, even in the last 8 years of JobsForHer's journey and now HerKey's, the kind of change that we have seen is amazing. You know, like when I started, so many companies told me that we don't want to hire women returnees, we don't want to hire women, we don't want to hire mothers. And it was because they used to keep looking at this break as a big handicap. And the biggest change in mindset we've been able to do is starting to make companies realize that, you know what, this is a talent pool, a very valuable talent pool, because it's a talent pool of experienced, qualified, capable women who have a fire in their bellies to prove themselves, and they'll join you at no notice period. So I think changing the mindset, changing the narrative can do wonders in terms of changing the status quo.
Right. But tell me, how did you, start by yourself? I'm sure you must have had some core team members initially to get, JobsForHer started. So tell me about that first few people that you hired so that you could bring your ideas into reality.
Yeah, sure. In fact, I'm very happy to tell you that I didn't just have core team members when I just started. Our employees number 1, 2 and 3 are still with us.
Wow.
And it's been 8.5 years.
Yeah.
In fact, our employee number 1, Gayatri, she always completes her milestone before even JobsForHer completes its milestone because she joined even before the company launched.
Oh, how come? Tell me that story.
Well, I mean, she joined so that we could launch the company, right?
Okay.
And no, I met Gayatri through an online platform, a recruitment
Which
platform.
one?
I think it was Naukri Monster because JobsForHer wasn't launched by then. And we met at a coffee shop because I didn't have an office. And I told her about the whole thing. She was on a break too. She had taken a break because of motherhood. And in fact, her son was around the same age as mine. And we met and I told her what I wanted to do. And she said, you know what, sure, let me think about it. Let me talk to my family, get back to you. And later I found out that it's her husband who really pushed her. I told her, take this chance, take a shot. Because, I mean, imagine it was a completely random person who's on a break telling her, I want to solve this problem for other women on a break. And she took it. She took that shot. And then she helped me employ my next set of people. So Gayatri today, by the way, heads our entire delivery team. Right after that, we hired Pankaja, who was there to handle all the admin of JobsForHer. Even today, her email address is still admin@jobsforher.com.
Wow.
And the third person we hired was Pritha, and we got Pritha on board. Again, all, by the way, women returnees. Pankaja had taken a break right after getting married. Pritha had taken a break because of medical reasons and relocating to Bangalore from Delhi. So I met Pritha. That time by then Gayatri and I had found a great place to work from, which was Social at Church Street.
Oh.
So basically, Social, the upstairs part of Social, we converted into a co-working space during the day. And the deal was just too good to say no to. So we said, okay, fine, let's do it. Let's work from here. So when I interviewed Pritha at Social, she just walked into Social and she was like, if this is where I'm going to work, I'm on. And Pritha, who now, by the way, today heads our entire sales team, the first whole year of JobsForHer, her definition of sales was calling up companies and convincing them that please come on the platform, list your job openings for free of cost, but hire these women who are on a break. And not because you should, because it's good for society, you should because it's good for your bottom line. So these were some of the very key people when we started. Another two other people joined us as well. Shonali, who came in as a returnee intern. She was on a break, she didn't know what to do. When I found out that she had majored in women's studies and creative writing from the Knox College, USA, I was like, do you want to try out writing? I wasn't looking for a writer. And then Shonali went on to build out our entire creative content team in the company. And Soumya, who came in to handle our marketing.
How did you find her?
By the time I hired, Shonali I found, by then JobsForHer social media had gone wild. And she saw one of our social media posts and reached out to me.
Oh, nice.
And Soumya, by the time she joined, JobsForHer itself was launched. And in fact, Soumya's application had come in for another company. And you know, this was the early days of JobsForHer, right? Every application that came to the platform hit mine and Gayatri's inbox first. We went through the application and then forwarded it on to the company. When I saw Soumya's application, I told Gayatri, don't send this out.
Let us take it yourself. Wow, that's quite interesting. So how long was this process until JobsForHer was launched?
So Gayatri joined in, I think, December or Jan of 2015, and that International Women's Day, March 8th, we were live. We literally gave ourselves like a month and a half, a couple of months to put together a basic MVP. And that's all we needed. Because again, the whole idea was you put together very low frills, low functionality platform, and it doesn't even have to be a platform, but some sort of an MVP that will actually test the market, right? It will test all the hypotheses and the theories that we had in our own heads to see whether it actually works. So when I launched this in March 2015, we had 20 companies on the platform. We were only providing job listings, for women on a break. And our website said this is only for women returnees in Bangalore. That is literally how we started. By the time a year was over, we had about 1,000 companies. Many of those companies were paying us to put us in touch with these women. And the number of women that were coming to our website, our website was crashing every week.
Wow. But how did you get the virality for the first time through your platform? Tell me about that.
So we used social media marketing and content marketing really well.
Okay.
Yeah, and we knew that, look, finally, first of all, we tried a lot of different things. Yeah. And we knew that we finally have to go to where the women are. Okay, that's the 101 of marketing. And we knew that our women were heavy social media users. So we used all the social media platforms, you know, but we really honed in on Facebook at that time. Yeah, because at that time Facebook was really rocking. And we did a lot of viral campaigns on Facebook, you know, so which again had to do with a lot of the emotion that you struggle with when you're on a break or you want to get back. And it had a lot to do with changing mindsets. Okay. Yeah? We also had a very strong ambassador community. Okay. And these ambassadors were basically our extended family. They used to work with their local communities, you know, and help them through the process, get them to use the platform, you know, evangelize the whole concept of getting back to work.
Right. And what would they get in return?
They would get a great network of other ambassadors. Okay. Yeah? So we used to run so that was in fact the first community that we started in JobsForHer, which was our ambassadors network. Okay. So we had a lot of ambassador specific events that we carried out. We had a lot of learning events for them, a lot of networking events for them, and of course the ambassador badge.
Yeah. So they worked like as a volunteer with you all?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, I'm just thinking that how much of purpose can bind together people. And they don't even need money to get started, you know. Some people just work for money, but it's so interesting to see how women especially work for an impact driven purpose.
No, but there's also the thing is that when, you know, especially when you've been through it yourself, you know that what the need is. Yeah. And all of our ambassadors were other women on a break too. Yeah, or they were women who had actually recently gotten back to work, but they had all taken a break at some point in their lives and they wanted to help.
Yeah, but how many women were there in India such who were on a career break and who wanted to get back?
There are no absolutely official statistics on it, but one of the studies that were conducted said that there were 20 million women in India who were looking to restart their careers.
Oh.
And about 80% of them felt that they won't be able to.
Okay.
Yeah, those are the kind of numbers that are flying around when I started JobsForHer.
And how is it now?
Well, today, if you look at it, right, I mean, the number of returnee programs that we've been able to get companies to launch, especially if a woman is returning to work in tech, it's the opposite problem.
Okay.
Where these women returnees are sitting with 4 or 5 job offers, you know, and they're being wooed by the companies. So yeah, the plane has shifted quite a lot, but there's still a long way to go.
Right. But tell me, how was it to convince companies initially? Because you said, right, that many companies wouldn't even see why is it needed for women who are on a career break to come back to work. So tell me some stories where you had a tough time dealing with companies, you know, because I mean, successes everybody talks about, and of course when they see a problem they will of course get to it, but when they didn't see a problem, how did you make them see it?
Yeah, no, I mean, there are lots of anecdotes. For example, I personally met with the head of HR of a large pharmaceutical company in India. And when I told her about the fact that, you know, she'll be able to access this pool of women returnees on the platform, she said, no, I don't want kitty party women. I was like, they're not kitty party women. Yeah, they are all women who've taken a break because of family reasons. Yeah, so it's not like they were not even working. They were just doing other work. Yeah, and they all have a fire to prove themselves and they want to get back to work. She said, but if these women were not working, then they obviously don't care about the money. And I want to hire women who care about the money. So it took a while to convince her about the and again, please note it was another woman.
Exactly.
She was like, I never took a break in my career. That was another woman actually in another company. This was a MNC company. When I told her the concept, and she told me, you know what, I have never taken a break in my career. And there were 2 other women in the room. She said they haven't taken a break in their careers. So if these women decide to take a break in their careers, why should we give them a second chance?
Oh shit.
Okay, another male head of HR on one conversation. In fact, I was having a conversation with this large company. So there were multiple people on the call, and there was somebody from TA and somebody from employer branding, you know, and somebody from HR on the call. And when I gave them my entire pitch, they said, "Why have you reached out to us? You should be talking to the CSR department of our company." And I was like, why should I talk to you CSR? He said, because this can come out of our CSR budget, because this is for social goodwill. You know, what other reason could there be to hire a woman on a break?
Oh God.
Yeah. So I've gone through lots of conversations, and I'm sure I still will. Yeah. I think what has changed now, people are a little bit more careful about voicing these.
Correct.
I mean, in the beginning, I remember somebody told me, at that point, of course, there was no holds barred, right? People felt very comfortable saying that they don't want to hire mothers. It's even saying that they don't want to hire mothers. One person told me, you know what, I have figured out the right age to hire a woman. You know, because if you hire her right after she's graduated, she'll get married and she'll leave you. If you hire her just when she's got married, then she'll have a kid. If you hire after first kid, she'll have a second kid. Then she'll have very little kids. Now, if you hire her a little bit too late, then her kids will be going through their ICSE exams, etc., board exams. So then she'll take a break. And then if she's much older, then her in-laws might not be well, so she'll take a break. So there's this particular window during which you should hire women. I said, please, you don't hire women. Dude.
Yeah. So many barriers.
Exactly.
Oh God.
Yeah. So I said there's been a lot of sensitization that has been required.
Yeah.
Hugely from the company's point of view, but also from the women point of view.
Yeah. But which sector in particular did you see was more welcoming in terms of appreciating?
Tech. Oh, totally tech. Yeah, because again, so actually, it's whichever sector has a very high demand for talent. It's really simple. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, it's all economics. You know, if you have a very high demand for talent, you will need to widen your access to talent. You will need to consider every pool of talent that is available out there if you want to win the war for talent. And at that time, tech was huge. It was growing hugely, right? And also, tech skills are something that you can very easily update yourself in. You know, if you have your foundations, anyway, technology is changing so rapidly, you just leapfrog into the latest technology.
Yeah, that's true. And tell me that, you know, how would your pitch be like initially when you started, and how has it changed over the course? Because you also learn while practicing it, you know, when you hear the other party's perception, you're like, okay, this is what I should be speaking now from the next meeting to get more conviction on my point. So how was it when you just started out? Like, what would you say to those people?
No, you know, frankly, Radhika, this is something that we really got right. Yeah, which is that, like I remember the first slide that I had even back then was a report by McKinsey that showed the ROI of hiring more women.
Okay.
Yeah, and it talked about how having more women at executive levels in your company increase your bottom line, it increases your performance, it increases employee satisfaction. Yeah.
Okay.
What has changed over time is not what we spoke about for women returnees. Yeah, that is very much clear. In fact, today, the beauty is that we don't need to do that explanation and that convincing anymore. Yeah, usually our story is sold when we knock on the door. Yeah. Because people, like the kind of inbound interest that we get of companies that get us women returnees, we want to have women returnees, is incredible. Yeah. And that's what I mean by change is happening. Yeah. Now, what we've also realized is that it can't be just about getting women into the workplace. We also need to talk to them about how are they working on getting women to stay in the workplace and rise in their careers. Yeah, and that was a big shift that we did in 2019, where we changed our tagline from Ready, Set, Restart to Start, Restart, Rise. Okay. Because we have to, if we really want to shift the diversity needle,
you need to
we're going to work on all those three facets.
Yeah, absolutely. That's true. You said that very important and nice point that, you know, women contribute much more to the bottom line of companies. So if you could...
No, if companies with more women had a better bottom line, overall, right? And they took a standard subset you know, of publicly listed companies. They saw that.
How is that?
Because again, and that's what we harped on. We harped on actually the benefits of diversity.
Correct.
Because when you have more diversity in your organization, you have more diverse capabilities, you have more diverse perspectives, and when your consumer base is diverse, your employee base should also mirror that. You know, it's like saying, like for example, FMCG companies, 85% of their consumer base are women. And 85% of the employee base were men.
Okay.
It doesn't make sense. Exactly, it doesn't make sense. You should have more women who will be able to figure out what kind of products you should come up with next. You know, what kind of marketing should you do to those women? What kind of sales channels should you be using? It's a no-brainer almost. And that is how diversity impacts your bottom line. Not because it makes you look good in public.
Exactly. But also tell me that, you know, when you started, of course, a lot of people get carried away by the greed and the demand pull factor that they're getting. So how did you cut the noise and, you know, tell your team as well that let's just focus on the women returnees because that's the niche we've chosen, and not focus on going everywhere, like to, you know, make every woman of every nature get a job?
Well, today, I mean, so I think at different phases of scaling, we've had these conversations in the company. And again, I think the answer lies in first of all, the alignment of that expansion that you want to do with the current base, and second, whether it aligns with our North Star or not. That's very important. So for example, in 2019, by 2019, we realized that the women who were getting back to work through the platform, they were still using our platform. And even though our platform said very clearly this is for women returnees only, women who are currently working were also using our platform. So at that point, we said, okay, if this is what the market is saying, let's go and understand why. So it became a very organic expansion at that point of view. And we did a lot of focus groups and a lot of surveys and started understanding what are the challenges that women are facing when they're currently working. Now, for example, we've realized that, you know, it's not just about getting women a job, right? It is also about retention and advancement. Now, over there, what women in leadership require is very different from what a woman in a junior management level might require. So we are also have unique solutions for women in leadership. So for example, we have a separate HerKey Gold Club, which is a networking club for women leaders. Because at that level, what's very important and what is lacking is that women just don't professionally network enough. And that's the only way to really advance in your career. So as we scale and grow, I think it's very important to figure out what are other adjacencies that are also adjacent problems that are also important to crack. Along with your core one. But of course, the women returnee problem will always stay core to us. But like today, for example, a lot of people ask us, why don't we get into other areas of diversity, which could be LGBTQ and seniors or handicapped or you know, racial, all of that. But for us, our core is changing, and again, our why was very clear, right? It was that India's labor force, women labor force participation rate is 20%. In urban India, it's 15%. China is at 60% and the USA is at 55%. That is our North Star. How do we increase the female labor force participation rates in India? For that, expanding into women who are currently working, women in leadership, women in tech made all sense. But expanding into other forms of diversity today doesn't.
But I'm sure you recently raised a good round of funding, about $4 million. But did you ever get questioned by investors that, you know, if you don't expand into different categories, you might shut down your revenue streams, and as a company, you might grow 10x, but you will only grow 5x if you focus only on women. So how do you really tackle with those things?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, for all those investors who feel like the women space, and there's so many women now in femtech, running femtech companies, and we face the same problem, where investors feel this is a niche space. We're talking about 50% of the global population. Something that serves 50% of the global population is not niche. Okay. So yes, and that too when it's untapped and it's underserved. Okay, the amount of potential that is in femtech is huge because it's so untapped and underserved, and it serves 50% of the population. So there is more than enough growth that can come just from the women's space. In fact, tomorrow that growth can come geographically too.
Of course.
Because the same problem is faced by women in so many different geographies.
That's true.
So I think it's very important to understand what is the core problem that you're trying to solve, and sometimes saying no is more important than saying yes.
So tell me about how did you bag your investment from Kalahari and the formerly IIFL group?
Absolutely. Well, so first of all, I realized that I have to go to all the female VCs for sure. And obviously the top of the notch is Vani.
Correct.
You know, and luckily for me, Vani has actually been my mentor as well over many years. So she really understood.
How did you meet her for the first time?
Well, this is a very less known story, but so I had founded the company in 2015, and in 2016 I found out about a startup girls challenge that Kalahari was hosting. And you know, I signed up for it because I thought it was a challenge, and you would get, I think, $80,000 in Facebook credits and $100,000 in cash. And I was like, oh my God, you know, I went all in. Went through multiple rounds of the pitches, and you know, worked really hard. We had a very, very small team then, very small company, and we won it. And I was delighted. And
what was the competition about?
It was basically this, right? Like, it was startup girls, like, you know, they would choose, like, they had lots of women entrepreneurs. It was only for women entrepreneurs to pitch and get selected. So I thought I'd won the competition, and I thought it's a cash prize, and then a term sheet came.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Wow.
And I wasn't expecting it because I wasn't fundraising at that point. And so I had to turn it down. And of course, a lot of people thought I was crazy. But
why did you do that?
Because I wasn't ready and my company wasn't ready. And as a finance student, I knew that you shouldn't sell yourself too early because then you'll sell yourself too cheap. So I had to turn it down, but because of that, I got to meet Vani. And I got to really, I requested them to be able to like explain to her why I had said no. And when I met her for that coffee, you know, she asked me to make sure that I never let the fear of failure come in my way. And I looked at her and I told her, Vani, right now it's the fear of success. Because at that time my kids were really, really little. And that is why I wasn't raising money. Because I wasn't sure. Like I told you, it took me a couple of years. By the time I could get through my own guilt and time management, fear management and all of that. And I think something in that conversation just got her to decide to mentor me through this process. And she did. So through this entire journey of scaling up, becoming profitable, finally deciding. So when I finally decided to go out there and raise money, obviously she was the first door I knocked.
Wow. That's such a lovely story. I get goosebumps while hearing it.
And by then, Vani has always been a big believer in women, right? Like she had started the CXXO community specifically for that. Put together, you know, a panel of investors, put together, you know, all these LPs and all of that specifically to make sure that more women entrepreneurs are getting funded. So it was just like a perfect match.
But when you say that, you know, she became a mentor to you, a lot of people look for mentors but still do not understand who can be the right mentor for them. So what is mentorship really for you, and how was Vani's mentorship, you know, helpful for you personally?
Sure, absolutely. Well, I believe very, very strongly in mentorship. So when I decided to start JobsForHer, I pretty much reached out to everybody I knew for like 20 minutes of the time, you know. I had a little black book in which I took vociferous notes. I used to take that with me everywhere. And I used to go, and that time there was no online meetings. So I used to go from like office to office, and I used to go to their office and ask them just for 20-30 minutes of their time. And I used to just ask them, how do you start, and you know, what works, what doesn't work, about how did they do it. And as I started reaching out to these people, there are certain people for whom it really clicked, right? Like that relationship really clicked. Like they loved what I wanted to do. I loved the kind of insight they were giving me, and so I asked for another meeting and then another meeting, and you build that relationship with them. So like for example, my two advisors, I met like that right in the beginning, before JobsForHer's name JobsForHer. They're Dhruv Shenoy and Shubha Kulkarni.
Okay.
Even today, 8.5 years later, they're still my advisors.
Okay.
Yeah, and
Where
now
are they
they're
from?
on my board. And now they're on my board,
Wow.
by the way. So Dhruv Shenoy used to run Monster in the Gulf area.
Oh.
So he really understood what it would be like to build a marketplace for women returnees.
Right.
And Shubha used to be the HR head of HP and AXA. So she really understood what HR folks are looking for. And over time, she's helped me hugely with my internal HR. Right? As we scaled up our teams.
Correct.
So these are two great examples, you know, and over time I've developed, and mentorship is something that has to be developed, you know. It's a very important give and take relationship between a mentor and a mentee. For the mentor also, it's important for them to see that the mentee is actually following up and doing what they discussed, you know. And I've noticed that there are a lot of people out there who are willing to help, especially if they feel very aligned to the vision, and you know, they vibe well with the mentee. They're more than willing to take the time and help. And with Vani, that was the case. I really felt like she was very aligned with what we were trying to do. And she must have seen some spark that maybe this girl will be able to get over all her fears and be able to achieve, and I'll make sure that she does. So once, and again, it's not like Vani was free for me to meet her on a daily basis or weekly basis or monthly basis even, right? Once a quarter, once in 6 months, I made sure I reached out to her and checked whether she was available for that 20 minutes to give her a quick update.
Wow. And how did IIFL come in as a...
IIFL, of course, came in. So when you're pitching for your first round, you pitch with everybody, right? And like IIFL was actually usually invested larger checks in larger startups, but over multiple rounds of discussions, I managed to convince them that, hey, the best time to get in is get in early. And then watch us grow. So it was great to have them on board also. In fact, again over there, coincidentally, and this time it was a coincidence. The woman leading there was a woman who was leading the conversation.
Anupama?
No, Nidhi Kumar. And now she's on our board too. So on our board right now, by the way, there's only one man. And Dhruv. And we are 4 women. So he's the diversity on our group, on our board. And then once I had the deal locked in with so Kalahari led it, and then IIFL also co-led it. Then I managed to convince them to keep $1 million aside to open it up to other angels. And the kind of angels that we got were really incredible, right? Like we had Zia Modi, we had Vallabh Bansali, we had Pramit Zaveri, Puneet Dalmia, Ranjan Pai, you know, Aditi and Shuchi Kothari. So all these people who again were passionate about what we were building.
And how did you reach out to them?
Through every possible network.
Like, give me one example.
Through every possible network, right? Like, I mean, people who, you know, second connections and third connections and all of that. Like, you know, my Penn alumni network, my family network, my advisors networks, my investors networks, you know, my companies networks, like all.
So how long did you take to fundraise?
Well, we had the fortune of fundraising during funding winter.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so that was quite a fun time. I think from when I started pitching to when finally money hit the bank, it took a whole year. And it was a year of complete roller coaster ride of ups and downs, you know. There's so many times thinking that, you know, just forget all of it, because as a founder, you're running 2 jobs, right, when you're fundraising. Because you can't take your pedal off with what you're doing at work. And then you got to make sure that this is happening. And then finally, despite it's just that nevertheless she persisted. And finally managed to close it 1 year after it started.
Wow.
And this was the first time. So due diligence also took like 3 months. Because they did due diligence of the entire 7-year history. You know, our term sheet negotiation took 2 months. Our like SHA and SSA, this is the first time I was seeing an SHA and SSA. That took so long. So, and it was a rookie team. Our entire team was a rookie team, you know. The person who handles my accounts. And by the way, she's been at the company for 7 years also. So she knew everything about our accounts. But she was an accounts professional. Yeah, she handled our entire due diligence from our side.
Yeah.
So we all rookies try to figure it out and manage to do it.
Yeah, that's what entrepreneurship is all about as well.
Yeah, just figuring it out on the go.
Yeah, I know. But why didn't you raise any time before in these 7 years?
Because one, I really always wanted to make sure that I raise money once I've got my unit economics right. Yeah. You know, you can either raise for the growth stage or the discovery stage, and I had enough fortune to be able to fund the discovery stage myself. Yeah, it was during the pandemic that we became profitable. It was during the pandemic that suddenly the market opened up like crazy.
Yeah,
because the demand for talent soared, and the biggest barrier for women's careers, which is flexibility, wasn't a barrier anymore.
Correct.
Yeah, because until then, that's always been the biggest barrier.
Right.
So suddenly with the pandemic, I saw that the tide has turned, you know, and we were on top of the wave. And that's when I was like, this is now, I think the company is ready for us to raise money and move from the discovery phase to the growth phase.
Nice. Yeah, that's a very conscious call that you've taken, because in that funding frenzy, people just ride on to any wave and then...
No, and that can't be good for the company, right?
Yeah.
Because the company is not ready for it. It can actually be the worst thing that happens if you flush it with money and grow it when you haven't figured out the unit economics.
Yeah. So how was the revenue model like when you started, and what is it like now?
So our revenue model has always been B2B, which is the companies pay us to
list the job,
to list their jobs, or to brand themselves, or to engage with our women.
Okay.
Yeah. And so over
people
time,
who are recruited, do you all also take cut out of that?
No. So we never we never operated like a placement agency, because again it was very clear that that model wasn't a product-led model. It was a people-led model. Yeah. And we were definitely in the business of creating a strong, scalable product to service this need. Over time, we've actually built a very scalable subscription model. Yeah. It's called our Bear packages, our Bear plans, which is branding, engagement, and recruitment.
Wow.
And so companies opt for different Bear plans by which we brand themselves so that, you know, they are put out there to our women talent pool. They engage with the women through a lot of different webinars, masterclass, etc.
Okay.
And finally, the recruitment happens through a lot of hiring drives and job listings.
On your platform.
So again, on our channels also, we use our platform. So today we get about 8 lakh MAU on the platform. We have about 4 million women registered on the platform. Wow. We use our email database of these 4 million women. We use social media. On social media, we have a 50 million monthly social media reach. And we use a lot of our offline events, either small scale, medium scale, or large scale as well.
Okay.
So it's actually omni-channel.
That's nice. So it started as B2B and it still is that?
It's very much B2B.
And you also talked about the gold membership that you all have recently launched.
Correct.
So tell me more about that.
Absolutely. So that was actually our first foray in terms of charging women for subscription models as well, and that's very well. So again, it's a very, very niche play, you know, because this is specifically for women leaders. Women leaders is niche.
Correct.
Okay, because we have very less
few,
women
unfortunately,
who are actually going up the ladder. I'm hoping one day it won't be niche, and that's our aim. But with the Gold Club, women are actually, it's by eligibility only. So only a woman who is at a senior management, aspiring leadership level, she's eligible for the Gold Club, and then they pay us an annual subscription fee to be part of the club.
Okay, which is how much?
Which is about 15,000 rupees for a year.
Oh, that's it?
Exactly.
That's good.
Absolutely. And with that, they become part of our Lens program. Okay, so we have so the program for our women is called the Lens program.
What is it?
And that's learning, engagement, networking, and showcasing.
Your content team has really done some great job in naming these programs.
Absolutely, you know, we like put it out there and we put it all together. So learning piece of it is again very tailored to what is holding women back. You know, so these are all career builder themes that we run. Yeah, it could be about owning ambition, it could be about managing time, it could be about financial investments. The engagement piece is making sure that women are engaging with one another through a lot of different discussions that constantly are being hosted by them itself. Yeah. And it could be across any topic. It could be about how to handle menstrual health during crazy office timings. The networking is to ensure that we have a lot of offline and online networking that's happening, which is you know, so that they can build that professional network. And the showcasing is something that women just don't do enough of, you know, to make sure that we actually getting these women to showcase their skills, brag about them, and share their achievements through our social media platforms.
Okay. That's
you should be part of it as well.
Yeah, I'm thinking too.
I think you will love the club.
So how many members do we have right now?
So at any given point of time, we make sure that we limit it to about 200 members only.
Okay.
Yeah, and we keep it extremely exclusive, you know, so that it can be a very deeply engaging club.
Yeah. Okay, that's quite a nice idea.
Yeah.
But why did you think of starting this? Was it to build professional networks of women on the top?
You know, we thought of starting this because mainly because we realized that till we don't get more women at leadership levels of companies, we can't have the sweeping change that is required within companies to be able to get more women in.
Yeah.
Like we started seeing this trend, right? Whenever we spoke to a company where there were a lot of women at the top, that the way the company was structured in terms of its policies, in terms of its culture, in terms of its the programs and initiatives they were running for women was completely different. Yeah, and so in order to get more women at the top, we started figuring out what is it, what will help. I realized that can't be jobs first, of course. Yeah, that has to be networking first.
Correct. Understood. And how did this whole piece of rebranding come into picture? Tell us that story.
Well, so JobsForHer had actually outgrown its name for a while. You know, we started off with the most key problem, which was the job. And once we had cracked that, once we had enough companies coming and posting their jobs, you know, by the hundreds every week, we realized that, okay, we also need to figure out how do we get women to reskill themselves. You know, and that's when we had launched learning and mentorship on the platform.
Okay.
And then over time we realized that we also need to make sure that we're not just connecting women with employers and experts, but we're also connecting women with each other. Yeah, and that's where the communities piece came in.
Yeah.
So at this, we had reached a stage now where we realized that actually the communities piece of it is the most important. Yeah, because no matter what stage of your career you're at, that community will be able to help you tide that path.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that is when we moved from JobsForHer to HerKey, so that women don't think that the only time they should come to us is when they're looking for a job.
Yeah.
Or for a job, because that's a transactional thing.
Correct.
Yeah. And that's just, if you're a restarter, getting that job is just the start of the journey.
Yeah.
There's so much more that is going to come. Yeah, and that's true at every stage.
Got it.
Also from a company point of view, we didn't want to work with company only for recruitment. Yeah, we wanted to work with them for recruitment, retention and advancement. And that's why we took that tough call that we're going to change the name of an 8-year-old brand.
Yeah.
And we timed it. We actually delayed our funding announcement so that we could time it with the name change from JobsForHer to HerKey.
Yeah, HerKey is like the key to her success.
Absolutely, exactly.
That can be a tagline.
Exactly. Yeah, yes, thank you for that. I will let my content team know.
Right. But, you know, tell me one, you said that you also help companies engage and retain the employees. So, do you all have certain programs for them in place, or how does that module work? Yes,
absolutely. So, again, we use the Lens program for that. Yeah.
Okay.
Everything that we learned when it came to working with the HerKey Gold Club, we're actually taking it to companies. So, there are a lot of companies, networks, employee resource groups, ERGs, also the women's networks that we are running now for them.
Okay.
And ensuring that their women, you know, stay with them as well as grow in their careers.
Understood. But when somebody asked, have somebody asked you that why should we be a part of your platform and not some other job listing platform or other competitive, you know, player in the industry now that we have so many of them? So how do you really tell them what's your unique proposition like?
Well, it's very simple, right? If you look at it's like going to a dentist versus going to an orthodontist.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you need braces, a dentist is not going to be able to help you.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure, dentists might know about it, but they're not built for it.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you need women talent, you need to go to the experts of women talent.
Yeah.
Because we will know what kind of job descriptions you should be writing. Yeah, we will know what kind of outreach you should be doing. You'll know how to really engage with the women talent, and we will know finally what kind of sensitization your recruiters need so that they will actually recruit more women.
Yeah, absolutely.
Even with the women, Yeah, if you go to a platform like LinkedIn, you know, you'll see, I mean, there's a reason why, you know, LinkedIn has such low participation of women in their user base. You know, it's pegged to be about 15 to 20%.
Yeah.
It's because as a woman, when you go to LinkedIn, and we know we've carried so many surveys and focus groups about it, you feel overwhelmed, you feel intimidated. Yeah. And especially if you've been on a break, then it's the coldest place in the universe for you. So if we want to solve their problems and their challenges, it has to be in a unique way. Yeah. Yeah. And that is why this exists.
Yeah, that's true. So what are your future plans now?
As well.
But tell me, did you always have this vision of going product first and not people first when you started?
Always, from the beginning.
And why, to achieve the scale?
Well, again, because of another mentor of mine, my younger brother.
Okay, what did he say?
So he was running a tech startup as well when I started my journey. He's the founder of Dream 11.
Harsh?
Yes.
He's your real brother?
Yes, he's my younger brother.
Is it?
Do you know him?
I know of him.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah. Now everybody knows of him. When I was starting, not so much, you know. He was also a struggling tech founder at that time.
But your surnames are different, no?
Because I'm married.
Oh!
Yes, I'm married.
Okay.
Yeah, this is the beauty of being a woman, right?
Wow.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. And so you were in Bombay earlier?
I was in Bombay. I'm a Bombay girl. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that's why I visit Bombay often enough.
But you never came in the recent few months.
And by the way, my kids are in Bombay right now.
Really?
With their grandparents and with, so yeah.
Oh God.
Yeah.
You should have also come.
It's just too much work happening. So that is why I told my parents I'll send my kids at least. I can't come, but I'll send my kids at least.
Yeah.
Work.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah. So he's the one actually, and I was a complete non-techie. Yeah, I'm a finance grad from Wharton. You know, that's what I get. I did finance and marketing. You know, and when I decided to start this, he's the one who sat me down and said, "You have to build a tech startup to solve this problem." And I said, "Are you crazy?" And he said, "Look, I know you're gonna work really, really hard. Either you can work really, really hard and impact the lives of thousands, or you can impact the lives of millions.
Yeah.
Which one do you want to do?" Yeah, and that is why from the beginning we were product first.
Okay.
I cursed him many times in the journey.
But
right now I'm thanking him.
No, but that's where having a right person by your side helps so much.
Hugely.
Because you might not have all the answers and the insights.
You will never have all the answers and the insights.
Yeah.
It's like literally standing on the shoulders of giants.
Right.
And why wouldn't you? You know, I mean, frankly, life is too short to be able to make all your mistakes yourself.
Yeah. I know.
You've got to learn from other people's mistakes.
Yeah, that's right. But you spoke about your childhood of being a Bombay girl. So tell me, how has your childhood influenced you as a person that you are today?
Well, hugely, I think, you know, because growing up, first of all, my parents never made a distinction between my brother and me. Yeah, and like, frankly, if anything, they expected me to achieve and do even better in studies than my brother did, you know, because I was the nerd of the family. And even like I was the first girl, in fact, in my family who went abroad to study, you know. My cousin sister wasn't allowed to. And at that time, my older cousin sister, and that time my dad had made it very clear that he is going to send his son and his daughter abroad to study. Yeah. So I think that that gender equal upbringing definitely played a very important part. Yeah, because my expectations from myself were always high then. You know, I didn't curtail my own self-expectations. I didn't think that, oh, you know, the goal in life is just to find a good husband, right? Also, so growing up, you know, I always saw all these successful people around me because I'm, you know, a typical Marwari family business kind of an upbringing. So anytime somebody asked me what do you want to do when you grow up, I always said to run my own business. Like it was just an obvious thing.
Correct.
Yeah, and that's why when I got back to work, you know, I constantly kept thinking about what is it that I want to run. You know, what is it that I want to found. And the third thing also was just, I think the whole concept of impact and social entrepreneurship is something that really drew to me. You know, reading a lot of different autobiographies.
Like which ones?
Malala's, Nelson Mandela's, Steve Jobs, now Jeff Bezos, Matthew McConaughey. Okay, but a lot of the impact-driven autobiographies really like called out to me. And I always felt that, you know, if you've been put in this world, you might as well leave it a better place than you found it. In whatever way and capacity you can.
Right.
And especially if you're in India. In fact, that was the reason why when I graduated, I moved right back.
Yeah.
Because I felt like there is so much need and demand in India that is untapped. Yeah. That you might as well come back here and do something that is of and it's so much easier to do something that is of double bottom line in India.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to create impact in India because there's so much impact waiting to be happen.
Yes, that's right. But like you said, you always wanted to have a business of your own, and this only came to you after your marriage and your kids.
Well, I did have my own venture right after I graduated.
Oh yeah, tell me about it.
So in fact, during my last semester at college itself, I started my first company. It was called Paragon. And again, it was to bring the advanced placement program back to India. So the whole idea was, so the APs are your American version of the IBs or A-levels. And when we had all gone abroad to study, we never got any credit for our HSC exams.
Yeah.
We did HSC.
Correct.
So I became the College Board representative of India before I had graduated. And brought it back to India, ran an educational center for 2 years. And all the kids who were going through my training center, they were all, you know, getting incredible placements in American universities and getting credits by which they were saving 6 months to 1 year of undergraduate college experiences, you know.
Wow.
So I had tasted the blood of social entrepreneurship before I got married. So after I got married, I joined my husband's family business, which was in pharmaceutical manufacturing. And that it was a great experience from an M&A standpoint and from just understanding systems and processes in a large multinational organization. But I thought I'd do that for the rest of my life. And that is where that break helps also, right? When I took that break, I got a chance to again reset and rethink, you know, what is it that I want to do when I get back? Like when I got back, it was very easy. I jumped back to Kemble, which was the family business. But because I'd gotten back to work, suddenly the opportunity cost of working was so high. You know, when you have kids, that you start wondering, but is this really what I want to do for the rest of my life? And that's when, you know, I finally thought that, you know, I always wanted to get into social entrepreneurship. Why not now?
Wow, that's quite a story. But what happened to Paragon?
Well, that was, in fact, it was easy for me to, like, you know, leave my family, leave my city, leave my friends. I had to shut down my company.
Why?
Because it was a complete offline center.
That was people-based fully.
And that was completely people-based, exactly. And when I moved to Bangalore, I tried to keep it on in Bombay. It was just very difficult because, again, I was the whole and soul of that company. And when I moved out, and that's the other thing I learned also, right? Like you learn so much from every entrepreneurship that I hadn't built a strong enough team under me. So that's the first thing I had done when I started JobsForHer, to build that strong team.
I know. But also tell me that, you know, when you set this up, did you know that it would grow to this level that it has today?
Not at all. Absolutely not. If I had known, I might have been too scared to start it. When I started this, somebody told me that, you know, think about where you'll be 5 years later and, you know, put down those numbers. And I remember standing in front of a whiteboard, putting some numbers down. And I thought it would be amazing if we can get there in 5 years. And we crossed that in 1 year.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And I think that's important, you know, especially like for women. We definitely don't think big enough. I remember when I went to Vani with my first plan. The only question to me was, how far are you willing to throw the javelin? Okay, because Neeraj Chopra had just won the gold. And she was just like, are you really going for gold with this? And I think that's a big problem. You know, we actually don't dream big enough. We constantly think about what is achievable and, you know, and not what is dreamable. And I think we have to change that mindset.
That's a common answer that I hear from a lot of women investors as well, who evaluate women founders, that they feel that their pitch is quite conservative, even though their skill sets aren't. And
that's a problem, right? Because again, now the thing is that women would like to promise something that they think they can achieve. But investors are used to hearing something which is way above what they're going to achieve. So they are going to mark that down by a good like 40%.
Yeah.
But women have come on the table with what they can achieve. Yeah. And then if investors further mark that down because that's what they're used to.
Yeah.
So that's it's a different language that the women are speaking and the investors are hearing.
Right. But this is such a good example of the javelin throw that you said.
Yeah.
It's really going to be there in my mind.
How far are you willing to throw the javelin?
Yeah. It's quite a deep statement which really provokes your thoughts.
Yeah. And Neeraj Chopra did it, right? Who could have thought?
Yeah.
An Olympic gold. It's incredible. So, you know, we could constantly think about, are we willing to go for gold?
Yeah, that's right. But we'll come to the rapid fire round.
Okay, super.
Yeah, tell me what would have been an alternative career for you?
It's supposed to be rapid, right?
Yeah.
I think an alternative career would have been in education.
As a teacher?
No. Oh, no. No. It has to be in business.
Okay.
Oh, that like I said.
Yeah, Marwari blood.
Conclusion, exactly. But it would have been in education. Like I mean, it would have been in, you know, making sure that it's in ensuring that our next generation is ready for the future and not for the current.
Yeah, got it. And who are some of the visionaries apart from Vani that you mentioned that you've met along your way of your professional career that have shaped the way you think?
Well, I mean, Zia Modi, who I'm very proud to have on our board now.
How did you get to her?
She just again through different networks, and she's just when I actually reached out to her, I was just starting off JobsForHer as well, and I ran her through the idea, and she called me. She asked me to meet me at like 11 p.m. on a weekday because that's when she got done with her work.
Wow. Yeah, she's known to work quite late hours.
And when she heard this, she said, "This is fantastic, and I must do it." And you know, and just shared with me the journeys of the women that she had seen, you know, at her law firm and the challenges that she had to go through. And that is why when I decided to raise money, I reached out to Zia.
Wow. That's quite interesting how just, you know, reaching out to people without any hesitation to ask gives you so many things. That's one more thing that women still are coping up with. Yeah. But tell me, what is that one learning that you've had over these years by observing your customer base of women who are restarting their careers? What one common pattern have you observed in them?
The biggest common pattern is lack of confidence. And that comes in a lot from our upbringing. You know, where boys are always pushed to be risk takers and girls are always pushed to be careful. You know, or I mean, boys are always encouraged to get out there and do stuff, and girls are always encouraged to take care of the home and family. And I think that then that leads to a lot of underconfidence in the workplace because they don't feel like they don't feel like they naturally belong there. You know. And that's the one very complete common thing I've seen across women who I've interacted with.
Understood. And have you ever been questioned for being a solo female founder of the company, or have you been given an advice to rope in a co-founder?
Of course.
How
did you deal with it? The same thing that I used to tell people when I graduated from Penn and came back, everybody used to ask me, when are you going to get married? When are you going to get married? I used to always tell them when I find the right guy. I mean, it's the same thing, right? Like, I will, you know, have a co-founder when I find the right person.
But are you looking for one?
Well, again, I'm not out there scouting a co-founder, no. But when there is a right person for the right role, we will take it then. Like, I don't believe in just having labels for the heck of having labels. It's very, very important that the need is there and the person is right for the job. But I'll be very, very happy to have somebody to share the load.
Yeah, I know. Because it's quite lonely journey.
Yes.
So my next question is around this, that in moments of stress and you know, loneliness, how do you cope up with that feeling and yet get back to work excitedly? I know your team of course helps you.
No, but over here I have to say this is where being a mompreneur can be a really big strength. Because the amount motherhood helps when it comes to something like this, it's incredible. You know, because one, it makes you realize that there's no point of sweating the small stuff. Yeah. Like when you go back home and you have, say, your kids to get back to, and you see that you're, like that's the biggest stress buster, first of all, on the planet. Yeah. Sometimes it could be a stress
giver as well.
But when things are really stressful at work, it's balance off that stress. Yeah. Second, you realize that, it gives a different perspective to life, right? I mean, no problem can ever seem bigger than the, happiness and health of your children.
Yeah.
You also realize that you've got to see life on a longer continuum than just seeing that one problem today, but you need to think a little bit more from a future point of view and how small that problem will look like in the future. So yeah, I think it's a huge strength to be a mompreneur, because there's a lot of learnings you get from motherhood that you can apply to entrepreneurship.
So since our show is based on people who have wiped out the norm, I want to ask you one instance where you think you have wiped out the norm, apart from, of course, creating a platform which is helping women. What is one other incident that you remember where you actually thought you have broken the rules of the game?
I think getting VCs to very strongly evaluate a social entrepreneurship and impact first company was a big wiping out the norm. Yeah. Okay. For VCs to realize, also for investors to start realizing that, look, just because we're impact first doesn't mean that we will not give the kind of returns that other companies would. And that was a big change in the norm. Yeah, and that is why it was very important, and I was very clear that when we raise money, we will raise money from mainstream VCs and not just from impact funds. Because that message, I think, has to be sent out very loud and clear. That, think about it, the biggest impact company in the world is actually Google. Yeah,
correct.
And both are possible.
Of course. No, that's quite a myth that you've busted, because a lot of people are afraid of creating platforms like these, given that they don't think there is enough support. But when they see,
or they will actually feel the need to downplay the impact, focus on impact, because otherwise they won't be taken seriously. But I truly believe both are possible. And frankly, those are the biggest, best, scalable, most impactful, profitable, businesses that are possible.
Yeah, that's right. And lastly, what's the last thing that you did for the first time?
The last thing that I did for the first time. Wow. That's really interesting. Well, I'm going to be doing something for the first time.
Okay.
Which is going to be, it's called swing bungee jumping.
What is that?
Yeah. So I've been tandem bungee jumping. But swing bungee jumping is literally when, you're standing there and the floor comes out from underneath you, and then you fall and then you swing.
Okay.
So I'm going to be doing that for the first time this December in New Zealand. I love adventure sports.
Wow.
So I'm going skydiving again.
But this happens how much above the...
I don't have to find out. It's usually like off
100 feet.
Yeah, easily. Yeah, and off a very high bridge. So I'm going skydiving, and then, and I will be going for skydiving for the first time with my kids. I've been skydiving twice before without them. And now it'll be the first time with them.
Wow, you're quite an adventurous person, I must say.
I'm quite an adventurous. Yes.
I mean, thinking about that swing only gives me adrenaline rush. That how would you even do that? Yeah, but nice, but good speaking with you, Neha.
Great,
thanks for sharing all those insights and giving your time.
Well, thank you so much, Radhika. Lovely talking to you too.
Thank you.